Greetings, fellow members of ASMC. My name is Lieutenant General Retired Ed Stanton. I was asked by General Scarce, who's heading up the retiree engagement for the 75th Commission of ASMC's 75th year, if I would talk a little bit about my time in OIF-1 and my relationship with ASMC over time. And I said, but of course. So let me set the stage briefly, going back 20 years to 2003. We had, at the time, our finance support structure, a FinCom supported a theater, a group supported a corps, and a battalion, a division. That was still our structure, though we were on the threshold of that evolving. And we had already transferred much of the functionality that used to be performed by these elements into DFAS when it stood up in the early 90s. So by 2003, we were well down that road. So in the case of OIF-1 in 2003, the support functions, the sustainment functions, were under the control of the 377th Theater Support Command from Louisiana. And it was responsible for all sustainment, transportation, engineering, medical personnel, etc., and importantly, financial management. And the vehicle for the financial management was a FinCom, the 336 FinCom out of Lake Charles, Louisiana. So in OIF-1, then we had the TSC deployed for the sustainment operation mission supported by the 336 FinCom. Well, I was serving as the CG of the Soldier Support Institute at Fort Jackson and got a call from my leader that said, "We need for you to be in Kuwait in 2 weeks and take command of the FinCom." So I took my aide, went to Fort Benning. We did all of the individual deployment prep things you have to get certified on in order to deploy, and went to Kuwait. Upon arrival there, I found an ADVON of 10 soldiers out of the Soldier Support Group at Fort Bragg, 10 soldiers from the 4th Finance Battalion, and an office, a TDA operation in Camp Doha, which was relatively small, I think about 14 people. And at the same time I arrived, a small contingent arrived of reserve component leaders out of Lake Charles, and the 15th Finance Battalion from Fort Hood, so all arrived about the same time. That was the FinCom. So from those elements, we basically started from the ground zero and cross-level talent and expertise in order to staff the critical roles within a FinCom. We had no policies, we had no internal control procedures. I was one day as the CG, and we had a deputy from Lake Charles and a sergeant major. And then we took the 20 ADVON soldiers that I talked about and created a FinCom. And over time, we got individual replacements. The FinCom in Germany was of tremendous value in lending us a G6, whom we would not have survived without a great non-commissioned officer, a captain who was instrumental in clearing funding agents, etc. So we took from here and we took from there, and we formed a FinCom. So truly a multi-compo unit. We published policies and we began training. The 15th in Arifjan built their own cashier cages out of plywood and set up built a customer inquiry counter, and began operations almost immediately. We had a lot of soldier inquiries because troops had flowed into the theater without going through a central site where the personnel community captured their presence, and we had not been able to start the entitlements like we should have. So between soldiers' inquiries and per pay bumps, over the next 2 months we were able to clean that up. But it made for a lot of inquiries and a lot of casual payments. Well, the role of the TSC again was all things sustainment, and of the financial management, our operation was responsible for funding meal pay, both reserve and active, dispersing commercial vendor services, in policy for the theater. As more soldiers flowed in, we augmented where necessary, and we spent evening hours training. So we had a training deficiency, partly because much of what we needed to do in the deployment environment had moved into DFAS, and the soldiers didn't do it every day. So we trained on it, brought them up to speed. What a great group of agile soldiers and leaders that we had and continue to have to this day. Well, our concept of operations early on during the shaping and setting theater conditions phases 1 and 2 were to resolve pay inquiries, continue procurement support, and you know we're paying for all the things that you would imagine that you would, water, ice, bulk items, any kind of a bulk item. We were leasing apartments, we leased rental cars, all of that kind of thing. In order to operationalize the mission. So in the early on stages, we were taking care of soldiers, resolving inquiries and making payments as appropriate, making BPA payments and procurement payments. But what we spent a lot of time doing was training disbursement agents and paying agents and posture ourselves for moving forward in phase 3, the actual, in this case it was shock and awe, the decisive maneuver phase in preparing for the regime change that we anticipated. So we were ready to go. The warfighting forces, the maneuver units were staged in 5 camps in northern Kuwait, and we trained and prepared KO teams, finance support teams, paying agents and dispersing agents, all ready to go forward. And that was the concept of operations. We would flow forward first KOs and then FSTs and then detachments. So, and that's what we did, and it worked well. I consult my notes here and just give you some of the. We made 231,000 casual payments in the first 6 months, cashed 131,000 checks, spent $1.4 billion in contracting and procurement support, 5,000 check payments and 17,000 cash payments, contract payments. And then we moved forward. So the missions forward turned out to be interesting and a little bit different. All of the things I just spoke to, you would anticipate in a normal engagement. We had 2 unusual things. Saddam's son one of his boys had taken $1 billion in $100 bills out of the bank right before shock and awe and hid it in one of the palaces. So we found it and moved it all. It was all moved to Arif Jan. We spent over 2,000 hours accounting for, securing, and reporting on this currency. And we found it in several different tranches, but at the end of the day, we had, and I have to consult my notes here, $786 million US dollars, $90 million worth of dinars, and $90 million worth of euros. It was an incredible mission, and the team did a great job because it was a bit unique to account for that level of currency. And then we had gold. There were three different shipments of ore, about 1,000 pounds each, one on the Syrian border and two on the Iranian border, that were seized and returned to us. So we had 3,000 bars, each weighing about 35 pounds of ore that looked like gold. And the thought was it was gold. We moved this. It was an incredible effort. And within our vault, we took it off the pallets. In order to get it into the vault, we had to do it by hand, and we set up a line of 20 soldiers and passed the ore, and they were 30 pounds apiece. Now, if you want to have a little PT, think about moving 1,000 of these bars, and the guy on the right passed it to the guy on the left, and pass it on down the line. An unbelievable experience. Well, we assayed it, and it turned out that it was copper and zinc, 2/3 copper and 1/3 zinc. So it was fool's gold. At any rate, it was a unique mission. And we also expended all kinds of money. We had brigade commanders' discretionary funds, so we used the Iraqi money to give it back to the Iraqi people by allowing brigade commanders to spend it on reconstruction in their area, another very different mission. And under the OCPA, the Coalition Provisional Authority, we paid Iraqi freedom fighters and we paid the Iraqi civil servants. A great mission, I thought, and a wonderful job by the entire financial community, supported by DFAS, the department, and of course the guys on the ground did a great job. So let me speak just for a second to my experience over time with ASMC. I spent my last 8 years on active duty in the department, working with OSD Comptroller, ASA-FMNC teammates, and throughout that time attended innumerable PDIs, spoke at them, was involved in workshops, and really grew to appreciate the great contribution that ASMC makes to professional defense comptrollership. So been a real pleasure to serve with them over time, and I extend my personal congratulations to ASMC and wish all of you that are members the very best and continued great success as you move forward. Thank you.